In this lesson, we will learn how to take an input from the user, how to save it, process it, and how to give a final result for that input. And by the end of the lesson, you will be able to make a very basic calculator in Python. I will show you everything. So let's get started. To take an input from the user, we simply write input, open and close parentheses. And now if we run this, as you can see down here, you can actually input some text. But as you hit enter, the program finished and it doesn't do anything with that input. So let's see what we need to do. We need to save the input, because just take some input and it's gone after the program is finished. So we need to save it. Also, I think a prompt will be useful, because let's say you show this program to someone else, or you read your program, let's say 3 months from now, and you don't even know what to input. So let's see what the program expects from us, and then let's do something with that input and print another result. Okay, so first step, how do we save the input? Just imagine we need something where to put this. Where do we put a number or a piece of text that we want to save for later? Well, we put it in the variable. Let's call this variable name. And how do we give a prompt? Here inside the parentheses, we just write our prompt. So as you can see, it's a string, and let's run the code now. Well, it's already much better. So enter your name and you hit enter and nothing happens, but we did a big step. We did a prompt, we saved the variable. So now all we have to do with this is to process it. How we do this? Well, to process this variable, you just do whatever you need to do with it to get your result that we expect. So let's say that I want to say hello, so I will print Alright, so I will print hello plus this variable name, and let's try it now. As you can see, the program says hello. Another thing here, as you probably notice or not, when we take an input, it will be a string, because we can do here string concatenation, so we can add two strings together. And this means this thing is a string. Alright, now let's see what happens if we want to do that calculator that I've told you about. Let's say number 1 equals to okay, so we take first number as an input, then we take a second number as an input, okay, then we'll have a result which will be the sum of both numbers. So we have number 1 plus number 2, and let's have print let's run our code. Okay, so enter a number, let's say 4, enter a second number, let's say 2. Now what do you think will happen now? We'll get 6. Let's see. Well, it's 42. Can you guess why? It's because both of these are strings. So now we need to convert this input from a string. We need to convert it to a number, because we can't, when we try to add strings together, this is what we get. So we need to convert it to a number. We can do some math operations on it. How we do that? Let's say we write int, which comes from integer, and open and close parentheses. Alright, so all this input will go inside open and close parentheses, and this int in front of it will convert the string. If it is a number, will convert it into an actual number, into an integer. Alright, so we do the same here. And let's try to run this. Enter a number. Again, let's say 4, let's say 2, and as you can see now we get number 6. Now, probably when you work with these things later, you might get some errors. So let's get the errors now, so you know what to expect later and how to solve them. If you try to give it as an input something that is not a number, so you give it a string that is not a number. Let's say we give it to like this, alright, to E. Let's run the code. As you can see, it's not good. So here, a value error, invalid literal for int with base 10. Basically it's telling you this thing E here is not, well, I did it somewhere here. It tells you that it's not a number, it has letters in it and it can be converted to a number. And another error, if you use int and for integer, if you try to enter a number that is not an integer, so it's a float, let's say we try to enter 6.7, again, value error, invalid literal for int with base 10, 6.7. Basically it tells you this is not an int, this is a float. Well, we can solve this very quickly. Instead of int, we can use float. And now if we run our code, as you can see, we can have 6.7. It works fine. Let's say +2, and it will give us the result. Okay, now one more thing before we finish. Let's say you have here a float. What do you think it will happen if I'm going to input an integer? Well, if we press enter, as you can see, it works fine. We put 2, and the result, as you can see, it's 8.0, because it actually adds 6.0 plus 2. And the same again with float. If you try to input a string, again the program will crash. Well, that's it for our introduction. I think it's time to start solving some problems. So I will see you in the next lesson and we'll start solving some of these problems.